Mom's sick, so I came instead. Maid's daughter walked into Billionaire's office. What he did next. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's dive into the story. The morning had started like any other. But for young Ellie, today would be anything but ordinary. Ellie was only 12 years old, but her life had been anything but typical. Raised by a hard-working single mother, Ellie knew all too well what it was like to make sacrifices. Her mother, Maria, was the housekeeper for one of the wealthiest men in the city, a billionaire named Richard Caldwell. He lived in a sprawling mansion overlooking the city, a place filled with marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and the scent of expensive perfumes. But while the mansion sparkled with opulence, Maria's life was a constant struggle. And today, it was worse than ever. Maria had come down with a terrible fever, leaving her unable to go to work. But the Caldwell estate was a machine that needed to run smoothly, and missing a day of work was simply not an option. Maria had always been dedicated to her job, ensuring that Mr. Caldwell's home was always spotless, and his every need was met. But today, her health was taking a toll. When she realized she couldn't go to work, she made a decision she hoped wouldn't come to this. She sent Ellie instead. Ellie had been to the mansion many times with her mother, but today, she was on her own. She knew that the sprawling estate wasn't a place for someone like her, a young girl from a working-class family. She was used to feeling invisible in a world full of wealth and power. But today was different. As she walked up the grand staircase to Mr. Caldwell's office, she felt a knot in her stomach. The pressure of the moment was overwhelming. She had never been sent on her own before, and she wasn't sure what to expect. Would Mr. Caldwell even notice her? Or would she be just another face in the background? Ellie took a deep breath and knocked gently on the door. A voice from inside called out, "Come in." As she opened the door, she was met with the sight of Mr. Caldwell sitting behind a massive oak desk, his face illuminated by the soft glow of the morning sun streaming through the windows. He looked up, his sharp eyes scanning her for a moment before narrowing slightly, as if trying to place her. "Can I help you?" he asked, his voice cold and businesslike. Ellie felt her heart race. She had to speak up. She had to make sure her mother's absence didn't cause any trouble. "Mr. Caldwell, my mom is sick," Ellie said, her voice shaking slightly. "She couldn't come in today, so I came instead." Mr. Caldwell raised an eyebrow, clearly taken aback by the young girl standing before him. He leaned back in his chair, the leather creaking beneath his weight. For a moment, there was an awkward silence. Then, in a voice laced with skepticism, he said, "You came instead? What exactly can you do for me?" Ellie's mind raced. She had seen her mother clean the mansion, organize every inch of the grand space, and meet Mr. Caldwell's every demand with precision. But Ellie was just a young girl, with no experience in the world of business or power. She swallowed hard, trying to keep her voice steady. "I can help, Mr. Caldwell. My mom has always taught me to do my best, no matter what. I can make sure everything's done right." There was another pause, and for a moment, Ellie felt a flicker of doubt. Maybe she wasn't cut out for this. Maybe she wasn't enough. But then Mr. Caldwell's expression softened ever so slightly. "All right," he said, his voice still skeptical but curious. "Let's see what you can do." And so, the test began. Ellie's heart pounded in her chest as she worked alongside Mr. Caldwell, moving through the mansion's vast rooms. She cleaned, organized, and kept up with every task, determined to prove her worth. The weight of the moment wasn't lost on her. She knew that this wasn't just about cleaning a house. It was about proving that even someone like her could make a difference in a world that often overlooked people like her mother. What happened next would change everything, not just for Ellie, but for Mr. Caldwell as well. Ellie continued to move through the mansion. Each step she took weighed down by the pressure of trying to live up to the expectations she felt in the air. Her eyes darted around the grand hallway, taking in the glistening marble floors and the massive chandeliers that hung above her. It was a place so full of wealth, power, and prestige, yet she felt out of place, like a small fish in an ocean of giants. Her mother had worked here for years, and now, it was Ellie's turn to make her mark. even if she didn't fully understand what it meant. She worked diligently, cleaning and organizing everything Mr. Caldwell asked, despite the weight of his gaze lingering over her like a constant reminder of the chasm between their worlds. It wasn't just about doing a good job, it was about proving that she belonged here. As the hours passed, Ellie felt her confidence grow just a little. She found herself thinking of her mother, how proud she would be if she could see her daughter working so hard. Ellie wasn't sure if Mr. Caldwell noticed her efforts, but she wasn't about to stop. She was doing this for her mother. Ellie moved into the office, her hands gripping the cleaning cloth as she wiped down the gleaming surface of the desk. Mr. Caldwell was sitting in his leather chair, papers strewn about in front of him. His attention was focused on his phone, scrolling through messages, his sharp features slightly softened by the glow of the screen. Ellie hesitated for a moment, unsure of how to approach. Should she speak up? Should she keep working silently? Her thoughts were interrupted when Mr. Caldwell looked up, catching her gaze for the first time that day. His expression was unreadable. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Ellie's heart pounded in her chest as the silence stretched between them. "You're doing a good job," Mr. Caldwell said, his voice low but genuine. Ellie froze for a moment, unsure if she'd heard him right. The words seemed to hang in the air, foreign and strange. "I've been watching," he added, his eyes scanning her face. "You remind me of your mother. She's always been one of the most dedicated people I've ever worked with. It's not easy to keep up with all the demands here, but she's done it without complaint." Ellie swallowed hard, trying to process what he had just said. For years, her mother had worked tirelessly in this place, and to hear Mr. Caldwell speak so highly of her meant more than Ellie could express. It wasn't just the praise, it was the acknowledgement of her mother's worth. She could feel her cheeks flush with a mixture of pride and disbelief. She had never expected this kind of recognition, especially not from someone like Mr. Caldwell. She had always thought of him as the powerful figure who stood in the distance, untouchable and unreachable. "Thank you, Mr. Caldwell," Ellie managed to say, her voice steady but soft. "I'm just doing what my mom taught me. To do my best, no matter what." Mr. Caldwell nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "Your mother has always been one of the most reliable people I've known. I think it's time I repay her for everything she's done." He paused, the words seemingly weighing heavy on his tongue. "I want to make sure you and your family are taken care of, Ellie. I know things haven't always been easy for you." Ellie blinked, her heart racing. What was he saying? Was this real? "What do you mean?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. Mr. Caldwell leaned forward in his chair, his gaze intense. "I'm going to make sure you and your mom have everything you need. You've shown me today that you're just as dedicated and hardworking as she is. It's time for you both to have a life that's more than just surviving." Ellie's mind raced. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. It felt like a dream, too good to be true. But as she looked into Mr. Caldwell's eyes, she could see the sincerity there. He wasn't just offering empty words. He was offering them a chance at something better. Her heart swelled with gratitude, and for the first time that day, Ellie felt like maybe, just maybe, they weren't invisible anymore. Maybe they were seen. As Ellie walked out of the office, her heart was still racing. She couldn't quite wrap her mind around what had just happened. Mr. Caldwell, the man she had always viewed as distant and untouchable, had just offered her and her mother a chance to live a better life. It was almost too much to process in one moment. For so long, she and her mother had struggled to make ends meet, working hard just to get by. Now, it seemed like things were finally changing. Ellie walked down the grand hallway, her footsteps lighter than they had ever been before. She could hear the faint hum of the mansion's heating system and the soft sound of the staff working in the distance. She felt different, like she was no longer invisible in a world of wealth and power. She was seen. She couldn't wait to get home and tell her mom what had happened. But as she turned the corner, she ran into Delilah, Mr. Caldwell's fiancée. Delilah was standing there, her eyes sharp and calculating as she looked Ellie up and down. Ellie immediately felt the tension in the air. Delilah was always polite, but there was something cold about her, something that didn't quite sit right with Ellie. Well, Delilah said, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Looks like the little maid's daughter is moving up in the world." Ellie stood her ground, not willing to let Delilah's words get to her. "I'm just doing my best," she said quietly, her voice steady but firm. Delilah's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Your best, huh?" she said, taking a step closer. I'm sure Mr. Caldwell will be very impressed with that. But remember, Ellie, there's a place for people like you. And then there's a place for people like us. Ellie felt her stomach tighten. She could sense the underlying meaning in Delilah's words. It was clear that Delilah didn't think she belonged in this world. Ellie knew she had to stand up for herself, for her mother, and for everything they had worked for. I don't need to prove myself to you, Ellie said, looking Delilah in the eye. I'm here because I'm doing my best. And that's all that matters. Delilah's smile faltered for a brief moment, and for the first time, Ellie saw a flicker of doubt in her eyes. But it was gone just as quickly as it appeared. We'll see how long that lasts, Delilah muttered, turning on her heel and walking away. Ellie watched her go, her heart still pounding in her chest. She had stood her ground, but she couldn't shake the feeling that Delilah wasn't going to let this go easily. Still, Ellie knew that she had done the right thing. She had proven that she belonged here, that she had the strength and courage to stand up for herself. As she made her way outside, she took a deep breath, the cool air filling her lungs. The world was still spinning, but for the first time in a long while, it felt like she was finally in control of her own destiny. When she got home, she couldn't wait to tell her mom. Things were changing, and she was ready to face whatever came next. The following day, Ellie could barely contain her excitement. The morning sun filtered through the windows as she helped her mother prepare breakfast, the aroma of scrambled eggs and toast filling the small apartment they called home. Maria had managed to get out of bed, her fever subsiding, and Ellie was eager to share what had happened the day before. She told her mother everything. How Mr. Caldwell had praised her efforts, how he had promised to help them, and how he saw her mother's hard work. Maria listened with wide eyes, her hands frozen in midair as she wiped the counter. You're telling me Mr. Caldwell said that? She asked in disbelief. Yes, Mom, Ellie said, grinning. He said we would have a life that's more than just surviving. Maria sat down at the kitchen table, her face full of emotion. For years, she had been trapped in a cycle of hard work and struggle. But now, it seemed like there might be a way out. A way to finally breathe easy. Ellie, you don't know how much that means to me, Maria whispered, her voice trembling. I never imagined things could change like this. Just as they were talking, there was a knock at the door. Ellie opened it to find a delivery man standing with a large box. This is for you, he said, handing her a slip to sign. The box was heavy, wrapped in a pristine white bow. Confused, Ellie accepted it and brought it inside. As she opened the box, she found a set of brand-new furniture, beautiful leather couches, a coffee table, and a vase of fresh flowers. A note was tucked inside. For Ellie and Maria, to start a new chapter. R.C. Ellie's eyes went wide. It was from Mr. Caldwell. The gift left her speechless. For so long, she had dreamed of living in a place where she didn't have to worry about the next bill, the next struggle. But now it felt real. She could hardly believe it. Maria stood behind her, eyes filled with tears. I told you, Mom. Things are changing, Ellie said, her voice full of wonder. It's not just about the furniture. It's about the opportunity, the future we've been given. A few days later, Mr. Caldwell personally visited their apartment, walking through the door with a gentle smile. I wanted to check in and see how you're doing, he said, his voice warm. Ellie was taken aback by how down-to-earth he seemed, a man who had all the power and wealth in the world, yet cared enough to visit them in their small home. I've been thinking a lot about how hard your mother works, Ellie, he said, and how much you've both given to get by. You deserve better. I'm making sure your mom will have a new role with us, one that's fitting for her hard work. Maria's eyes filled with gratitude as Mr. Caldwell continued. She'll be working in a higher position, with a salary that reflects her dedication. You both deserve more than just surviving. Ellie stood there in awe. Thank you, Mr. Caldwell. We won't forget this, Ellie said, her voice full of emotion. Mr. Caldwell nodded. No need to thank me. Just do your best, like you've already shown me you can. As he left, Ellie felt a rush of excitement and relief. The world she once thought she would never fit into was now opening up to her. She could see a future beyond the walls of their tiny apartment. It wasn't just about wealth or luxury. It was about the chance to build a life where they no longer had to fight for every step. Maria and Ellie had been seen. They were no longer invisible. The next chapter had begun, and it was more than they ever imagined. Weeks passed, and life for Ellie and her mother continued to improve in ways they never imagined. The new furniture, the offer of a better job for Maria, and the promise of a brighter future were more than just material changes. They were signs of the transformation that was taking place in their lives. Ellie could hardly believe how much had shifted. But with the good came a challenge they hadn't anticipated. As Maria settled into her new role, which involved overseeing a team of housekeepers and organizing the staff schedule, Ellie found herself growing closer to Mr. Caldwell. He would occasionally stop by their apartment to check in on them, always making sure they were comfortable and adjusting to the changes. He was kind, always genuine, but his visits made Ellie nervous. She wasn't used to this kind of attention, especially from someone so powerful. One evening, as Ellie was finishing her homework, she heard a knock at the door. Her heart skipped a beat when she opened it to find Mr. Caldwell standing there, his usual warm smile in place. "I hope I'm not interrupting," he said, his voice smooth but sincere. "I wanted to talk to you about something important." Ellie nodded, stepping aside to let him in. She could sense that this conversation was different from the others. They sat down at the kitchen table, the same one where they had shared their first real conversation. "I know this might seem sudden," Mr. Caldwell began, his eyes meeting hers. "But I've been thinking about how much potential you have, Ellie. I see a lot of my younger self in you. The drive, the determination, the willingness to push forward even when things aren't easy." Ellie shifted in her chair, unsure where this conversation was heading. "I'd like to offer you an opportunity," Mr. Caldwell continued. "I know you've got the ambition and intelligence to do more than just help around the house. I've been speaking with my colleagues about an internship program we're offering at Caldwell Enterprises. It's a chance for you to get hands-on experience in the business world, to learn and grow in a professional environment." Ellie's mind raced. The idea of working in an office, of learning about business, was both exciting and terrifying. But she knew it was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. "Are you sure I'm ready for that?" Ellie asked, her voice filled with doubt. "I mean, I don't know anything about business." Mr. Caldwell smiled kindly. "That's the beauty of this program, Ellie. You'll have mentors to guide you every step of the way. And you're already showing the qualities that will make you successful: curiosity, resilience, and the willingness to work hard. Those are the qualities that matter most." Ellie felt a wave of emotion wash over her. This wasn't just a job offer. It was a chance to change her life forever. She had worked so hard to get to this point, but this was the kind of opportunity that could take her further than she ever imagined. "I don't even know how to thank you," Ellie said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You've already done so much for me and my mom." Mr. Caldwell shook his head. "You don't need to thank me, Ellie. You've earned this. I believe in you." As Mr. Caldwell left, Ellie sat there in awe. The weight of the moment settled over her, and she knew that this was the turning point in her life. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was on the path to building something real, something of her own. The next day, Ellie told her mother about the internship offer, and Maria couldn't have been prouder. They both knew this was just the beginning. The world was opening up to them, and for the first time, it felt like anything was possible. Ellie woke up early the next day, a sense of excitement and nervousness bubbling inside her. The opportunity Mr. Caldwell had offered was life-changing, but it also brought a weight of responsibility she wasn't sure she was ready for. She had always been a hard worker, but this was something different, something bigger. As she got ready, she couldn't help but replay the conversation in her mind. "You've earned this. I believe in you." Mr. Caldwell's words echoed in her head. Ellie wanted to make him proud, to show him that his faith in her wasn't misplaced. As she walked into the Caldwell Enterprises building that morning, her heart pounded in her chest. The towering skyscraper gleamed in the sunlight, and the lobby was a sea of polished marble, glass, and chrome. It felt surreal, like a world she had never imagined being part of. Ellie took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and walked to the elevator. She was here for a reason. The elevator doors opened, and she stepped inside, her reflection staring back at her. She was no longer the shy girl who had just been cleaning the mansion. She was Ellie, the intern at one of the biggest companies in the city. When she arrived at the designated floor, she was greeted by a friendly receptionist who handed her a visitor's badge and directed her to the office where she'd be working. As she walked down the corridor, Ellie noticed the hustle and bustle of the employees around her. People in suits, talking business, making deals. This was a world of power, influence, and success. As she walked into her office, she was surprised to find it neat and welcoming. A desk was set up with a laptop, and there was a chair for a mentor to sit beside her. Ellie sat down and started to read through the materials on her desk, trying to absorb as much as she could. It wasn't long before her mentor, Sarah, walked in. Sarah was a senior manager at the company, her sharp suit and confident demeanor making it clear that she was someone who knew her stuff. "You must be Ellie," Sarah said, offering a warm smile as she extended her hand. "I'm Sarah, and I'll be guiding you through your internship." Ellie shook her hand, trying to mask her nervousness with a smile. "It's nice to meet you, Sarah." Sarah led Ellie through the office, explaining the company's operations, the projects they were working on, and how everything tied together. Ellie felt a mix of awe and overwhelm. It was a lot to take in, but it felt so right, like she was exactly where she was meant to be. As the days passed, Ellie found herself growing more comfortable. She worked on small tasks, like organizing files and setting up meetings, but each task brought her closer to understanding the company's inner workings. Sarah was a patient and encouraging mentor, always willing to answer Ellie's questions and offer advice. One afternoon, Ellie was asked to attend a meeting with Mr. Caldwell. Her heart raced as she walked into the conference room. Mr. Caldwell was sitting at the head of the table, his sharp gaze focused on a presentation. He looked up as Ellie entered. "Ah, Ellie," he said, his voice warm. "Come, have a seat. We're discussing some new ideas for the company, and I'd like to hear your thoughts." Ellie sat down, her palms sweaty but her mind focused. She had read up on the project the night before, and she knew what she wanted to say. As the meeting progressed, Ellie found herself speaking up, offering insights and suggestions. At first, she was unsure if her ideas would be well received, but as Mr. Caldwell nodded and smiled, Ellie felt a surge of confidence. "You're on the right track," Mr. Caldwell said, giving her an approving glance. "Keep thinking like that, Ellie. You have a good head on your shoulders." Ellie couldn't believe it. This was the man who had changed her and her mother's life, and now he was trusting her ideas. It was a moment of validation, one that Ellie would never forget. As the day came to a close, she walked out of the building, her heart soaring. She had taken a step into the world she had always dreamed of, and it felt like the beginning of something incredible. Ellie's days at Caldwell Enterprises continued to bring new challenges, but she felt more equipped to handle them each time. The internship was becoming more than just an opportunity. It was a doorway to a future she had only dared to dream about. As she worked, Ellie began to develop a deeper understanding of the business world, but there was one aspect she hadn't expected: the constant pressure to perform. The expectations were high, and every day felt like a test. But with Sarah's guidance, Ellie learned to take each challenge in stride. One afternoon, Ellie was called into a meeting that would test her abilities more than anything she had faced so far. The company was in the process of launching a new product line, and they needed someone to oversee the marketing strategy. Sarah had suggested Ellie as a potential candidate, and Mr. Caldwell had agreed. It was an exciting opportunity, but Ellie couldn't deny the pressure she felt. The product line was a major part of the company's future, and her input could influence its success. As Ellie sat in the meeting room, her mind raced. Mr. Caldwell, Sarah, and a few senior executives were seated around the table, each one waiting for her to speak. She had spent the entire night preparing, but now that the moment had arrived, doubt crept in. "Ellie," Mr. Caldwell's voice broke through her thoughts. "We're eager to hear your ideas. What do you think will make this product line stand out?" Ellie took a deep breath, trying to calm her nerves. She had done the research. She knew the target market. She had ideas that could work. "I believe the key to making this product line successful is to focus on quality and authenticity," Ellie began, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "Consumers today want products that reflect their values, products that are not only high quality, but also ethically made. I think if we emphasize the story behind our products, we'll attract a loyal customer base." She paused, scanning the room. Mr. Caldwell was watching her intently, his expression unreadable. Sarah gave her an encouraging nod, and that gave Ellie the confidence to continue. "Additionally, we can use social media influencers to reach a wider audience. But instead of just advertising the product, we can have influencers share the values of our brand, like sustainability and community impact. This way, we build a deeper connection with our audience." The room was silent for a moment. Then, one of the senior executives spoke up. "That's a solid strategy, Ellie," he said. "But how do you plan to ensure that the message resonates with the right people?" Ellie thought for a moment, then replied, "By aligning our message with the core values of the target market. We'll need to conduct surveys and gather feedback regularly to make sure we're on track. It's about creating a conversation, not just a transaction." Mr. Caldwell leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled in front of him. "I like it," he said slowly. "It's bold, it's thoughtful, and it's exactly what this company needs." "Well done, Ellie." Ellie's heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected such praise. "Thank you, sir," she said, trying to hide her surprise. As the meeting concluded, Ellie walked out of the room, her mind still processing what had just happened. She had done it. She had spoken her mind, and her ideas had been well received. It was a moment of validation, a sign that she was truly becoming part of this world. But there was still so much to learn, so much to prove. As she made her way back to her desk, Ellie felt a new sense of purpose. This wasn't just a job, it was her future, and she was going to make the most of it. As the weeks went by, Ellie found herself becoming more confident in her role at Caldwell Enterprises. The feedback she had received from Mr. Caldwell had not only boosted her morale, but it had also solidified her place within the company. She was no longer just the maid's daughter. She was Ellie, a young intern with bright ideas and a growing presence. But with success came new challenges, and Ellie knew she was just getting started. One afternoon, she was invited to attend an important meeting with Mr. Caldwell. This was the kind of meeting where executives discussed major decisions, the kind that could make or break a company. Ellie was nervous, but she also felt ready. As she entered the boardroom, she noticed the serious atmosphere. The executives sat around a large table, their faces set in concentration as they reviewed charts, numbers, and projections. Mr. Caldwell was at the head of the table, his eyes scanning the documents in front of him. Ellie took a deep breath and sat down, feeling the weight of the moment. "Ellie," Mr. Caldwell said, looking up and making eye contact. "We need your input on this. What do you think about our marketing strategy for the upcoming product launch?" Ellie's heart skipped a beat. This was it. She had been preparing for this moment, but now that it was here, she was struck by the gravity of it. The entire company was depending on their decisions, and here she was, being asked for her opinion. She looked at the charts in front of her, trying to gather her thoughts. After a few moments of silence, Ellie spoke. "I think the key to the product launch is not just advertising the product itself, but creating a story around it. People connect with stories, not just products. If we can show the journey behind the product, how it's made, the people behind it, and the values that drive it, I think it will resonate more with our target audience." There was a moment of silence in the room as the executives processed what Ellie had said. Mr. Caldwell leaned forward, his eyes narrowing slightly as he took in her words. "Go on," he said. Ellie continued, her voice steady and confident now. "We can use behind-the-scenes content, interviews with the people who created the product, and social media campaigns that focus on the values we stand for, like sustainability and community impact. This will create an emotional connection with consumers, and they'll feel more inclined to support our brand." Ellie could feel the eyes of everyone in the room on her. She wasn't used to this kind of attention, but she knew she had to keep going. "And we can use influencers who align with our values to amplify the message. Not just any influencers, but those who genuinely believe in what we stand for." Mr. Caldwell nodded slowly, clearly impressed. "That's a unique perspective, Ellie," he said. "I like it. It's different from what we've been doing, but I think it could work. What do you all think?" The other executives nodded in agreement, murmuring their approval. Ellie felt a sense of relief wash over her. She had just contributed to one of the company's most important discussions, and her ideas had been taken seriously. After the meeting, Mr. Caldwell approached her. "Ellie," he said, "you've done well today. I'm glad I brought you on board. You've got a great future ahead of you if you keep thinking like this." Ellie's heart swelled with pride. This wasn't just about working at Caldwell Enterprises anymore. It was about her future. It was about proving to herself and to the world that she was capable of more than just cleaning floors and organizing schedules. She was more than that. She was someone with ideas, with vision, and with the drive to make a difference. As Ellie left the meeting, she couldn't help but smile. This was the life she had always dreamed of, and it was only just beginning. Months had passed since Ellie started her internship at Caldwell Enterprises, and every day she felt more at home in this new world. She had worked tirelessly, learning the ropes, contributing her ideas, and earning the respect of her colleagues. Her relationship with Mr. Caldwell had grown as well. He no longer saw her just as the maid's daughter. He saw her as a capable, talented individual with a bright future. One day, as Ellie sat in her office, she received an unexpected call from Mr. Caldwell. "Ellie, I need you to come to my office," he said, his voice serious but warm. Ellie's heart skipped a beat. Had she done something wrong? She had been working on the product launch project for weeks, but she couldn't think of any mistakes she had made. As she made her way to his office, she couldn't help but wonder what this was about. When she entered, Mr. Caldwell was standing by the window, looking out over the city. "Ellie," he said as she stepped inside, "I've been thinking about the progress you've made here. Your contributions have been invaluable, and I believe you're ready for something more." Ellie stood frozen, unsure of what he meant. Was he offering her another opportunity? A promotion, perhaps? "I want to offer you a full-time position with Caldwell Enterprises," Mr. Caldwell continued, turning to face her. "You've proven yourself time and time again, and I think you have what it takes to succeed in this company. I'm offering you a managerial role overseeing the marketing department. What do you think?" Ellie's mind raced. This was more than she had ever hoped for. A full-time position, a chance to truly make an impact. She felt a surge of pride, but also a wave of disbelief. This was the moment she had been working toward, but it still felt surreal. "I don't know what to say," Ellie replied, her voice trembling. "I'm so grateful, Mr. Caldwell. This is everything I've dreamed of." Mr. Caldwell smiled, his eyes warm. "You've earned it, Ellie. I have no doubt that you'll do great things here. Just remember, this is only the beginning." As Ellie left his office, she felt a mix of emotions. Excitement, gratitude, and even a little fear. She had worked so hard to get to this point, and now that she was here, she realized that this was only the first step in a much bigger journey. But for the first time in her life, Ellie felt ready for whatever came next. That evening, Ellie couldn't wait to tell her mother. She called her as soon as she got home, barely able to contain her excitement. "Mom, you won't believe what happened today," she said, her voice full of joy. Maria listened intently as Ellie told her about the promotion, about the managerial role she had been offered. Maria's voice cracked with emotion. "I'm so proud of you, Ellie. You've worked so hard for this, and I know you're going to do amazing things. I always knew you had it in you." Ellie smiled, feeling a sense of warmth and love wash over her. Her mother's pride meant everything to her. They had come so far together, and now, Ellie knew that their lives were about to change in ways they couldn't even imagine. The future was bright, and for the first time, Ellie felt like she truly belonged. She wasn't just the maid's daughter anymore. She was Ellie, a strong, capable woman with a future full of possibilities.